everyone, and welcome to a new video interview for Jogonet Gaming News. Today we are joined by businesswoman and politician Jan Jones Blackhurst. Jan was mayor of Las Vegas from 1991 to 1999 and sits on the board of directors of several organizations, having worked on a number of renowned entities such as Caesars Entertainment. Jan has recently been appointed to the board of esports betting company Esports Entertainment Group, so we will be discussing this appointment and the gaming industry with her. Thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
So, well, as I was saying, you have now joined the board of directors of Esports Entertainment Group at a critical time for the company, which has been able to capitalize on the esports boom and is now publicly listed. How was this appointment reached? And what led you to accept, and what are some of your expectations for this role?
I met Grant Johnson, their CEO, and then was able to spend a significant amount of time with him when we were at ICE, which is the large international gaming show in London, and learned more about EEG, what Grant's vision is, understood that they had a lot of different products, but they were beginning to solidify their focus. I do believe that esports is going to be one of the most significant gambling games of the future. And I think EEG is on the cutting edge of finding a platform and a way to distribute that product in a meaningful way to younger players and even broad casino customers. So after spending time with Grant, I felt that there's a pathway for both his products and his energy. He puts a tremendous amount of energy into his company.
You have briefly mentioned this. The company is also exploring the link between esports and land-based casinos. Earlier this year, they held the first skill-based wagering event in the US in partnership with Hard Rock in an esports tournament that allowed betting. Now, you have vast experience in the land-based sector, including a role in Caesars. Do you expect synergies between the traditional industry and the esports vertical going forward? Is this something that we could see?
No question, there will be a link. I think the traditional casino industry is still trying to understand how do we provide this entertainment to the right customer, so they're of age, and in a format that you can get to scale. And it's one of the things that EEG tested in their collaboration with Hard Rock. It was almost like a poker game where a number of people could play against each other and have that thrill of entertainment and competition, and the house would just take a big. And I think before you see more online, which right now is, it just depends on where you are, the question of legality, that this becomes a casino product that I think could be very successful. In New Jersey, they limited the amount of money you could bet to $25. But the good news was you found that people who were participating really wanted to bet a lot more.
The company is also the first licensed esports gambling site in the US through New Jersey approval, precisely. Now, this is a landmark event for esports betting at large. What I wanted to know is, what could your experience bring to the table now for the company? I understand that you have a role in the UNLV's Blackfire Innovation, which explores new gaming concepts, including esports. What do you think you could provide for the company at this time?
I think I can help the company look at opportunities to integrate their products into a casino environment in a successful way. I think I can be of assistance regulatorily, because as you know, in the United States, you have to go state to state right now. Right. They've been approved in New Jersey, so we only have 50 states to go. But I think that having been in the business for a long number of years, understand the process and can help the company be successful in expanding their offerings.
So you both have experience in gaming businesses and also governance. Now, speaking about the sports betting at large and this expansion we were mentioning, what do you see as the main opportunities, but perhaps also the main hurdles to overcome in the development of esports betting? This is also taking into account such factors such as player protection, regulation you were mentioning. What can we expect?
I think you're going to have to really look at esports when it does come online to have this successful sites, to have the same regulatory oversight as online product that's offered in a variety of states today, whether that's sports betting or online gaming, which is in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey. And all of those products are totally focused on making sure that only people in those states can access the sites, that they're well aware that it's a customer who meets the age requirement, that we're watching, how you control responsible gaming practices. And I think esports will be no different. Right now, I don't think the industry, the esports industry, has evolved to where they're really able to offer on a broad scale. And some of the sites that are sort of operating in a gray market, meaning they're sort of outside the regulatory environment. And EEG and their CEO has been very clear that they want to do this differently. They want to do it in the appropriate regulated fashion. And that may mean that they move a little more slowly, but I think that's the right decision.
The thing with regulation
and what's interesting to that, you saw what happened in poker, where you had a lot of gray market operators that for a period of time were making a great deal of money until they weren't. And then they were all closed down. So it's better to take your time and do it the correct way.
Right. Well, there's a thing with regulation, and we have seen this with iGaming, which is that sometimes we have seen regulation lagging behind technology. So for instance, and we now have new products hitting the market, such as crypto and so on. Do you think that this could potentially also happen to esports betting, or since esports betting is coming after online gaming, it will perhaps benefit from already established regulation?
I think it will benefit from already established regulation. And I think that's really the approach you've seen EEG take. That, they could go the other way and put the product out there in semi-legalized markets, but they really don't think that's the right way for the long term. And as I said, I think that esports is going to be a significant part of the future of gambling, both online and in casinos, but it's going to take a moment to get the model right.
Well, something I can't help but bring up is Las Vegas. You, of course, know this market very well. It's the major gaming market in the US. Now, what I wanted to ask you is, as an expert in this field, is what opportunities do you see in Las Vegas and Nevada as a state going forward? And if you could share some insights into this market. For instance, the state now has an esports technical advisory committee. Now, I wanted to know if you could tell us what is your opinion on the market in general.
Because Las Vegas is the gambling capital of the world, you have everyone looking at esports. Even at Blackfire, where I work, we have an esports stadium where in one of the competitions, there were more viewers than the total viewership of watching the basketball national finals playoffs. So we know the market's huge. We want to understand, as I said earlier, how do we engage those eSport customers who are legally of age and offer them a betting opportunity on games that they love. So we'll get it right. We'll get it properly regulated. And then I think we'll become the model from Las Vegas on how you roll it out successfully. Although I will say that New Jersey has shown some exceptional leadership in being first to market with a lot of products. They were first to market with online gaming. They were first to market with looking at esports betting. So at least the two biggest regulatory environments are giving it fair attention.
Well, we have mentioned that the esports betting could also potentially imply an opportunity for the gaming industry at large. Now, the gaming industry has been delivering some record months despite some macroeconomic headwinds, such as the rising inflation and labor shortages. Now, asking you as an expert, do you expect the gaming industry to go forward with this momentum in gaming, or will these factors perhaps limit that growth? And do you see it as that we are finally getting into post-pandemic recovery?
I think you've seen record volumes in Las Vegas. I mean, the market has been outperforming month after month. I think it's still unclear what the inflation and rising costs, what kind of impact that will have on destination markets. Right now, we're not seeing a significant impact. When you look at the regional markets, though, the river boats, all of the gambling that is on a smaller scale across the United States, you're beginning to see a little bit of headwind. I think it depends on how long gas prices stay so severely elevated and the cost of goods and services keep growing. You know, I don't have a crystal ball, I think, but I think that the economy in the short term may impact some of the gaming volumes while we find, where are we? Are we through the economic crisis? Is it going to be a longer haul? But generally, gambling entertainment is pretty resilient. We found in the past that, you know, it's one of the last consumer retail markets to feel the pain.
In our last interview with Grant Johnson of eSports Entertainment Group, he told us that he believed that eSports betting had the potential to become as big as sports betting in about 15 to 20 years. He cited the expansion of eSports teams in universities and high schools, a growing audience. What I wanted to ask you is, do you share this opinion of his that we could see it become as big as sports betting in perhaps 2 decades?
Without question. When you look at your customers, the 21 to 30 customers, the one, we know they like to gamble. They just don't like to necessarily gamble on the products we have.
Right.
When we really understand how to access that market, how to do it to scale in a regulated way, I think that esports 15, 20 years from now will be every bit as big as sports betting, because that's what these young customers now, 20 years from now, the 16-year-old is our prime customer, even the 11-year-old. So, and this is what they play today. So this becomes the real focus of the future. The Indian tribes always say, look forward 7 generations. And I think if the gambling industry is looking forward 7 generations, they better be paying attention to the esports player.
Right. Well, to close the interview, I wanted to ask you a last question. So soon after you were appointed to EEG's board, the company also added Casey Munro to its board as well. What I wanted to ask you is, would you say gaming companies are now more committed to having women in major roles within their structures? As the first female mayor of Las Vegas and as a key figure in gaming, what would you say has changed?
I wouldn't say that it has changed dramatically in terms of representation at the very most senior levels of the companies. The large, both US and international gaming companies are a little more representative. I think at the board level, gaming companies have done a very good job of building diverse board representation. I think they're focused on the importance of building diverse and inclusive operating teams, not just because it's the right thing to do, it's best business practice. All the data shows that if you have diverse teams, you're higher performing. So I think maybe like esports, maybe a decade from now, gaming companies will look much more representative of who their customers are, not just males at the top.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Jan, and for your answers.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time.